What is up, YouTubes? We're back to talk about two-headed giants. So this video is to supplement my original pre-release video, which I'll link up here and in the description if you haven't already watched it. Definitely check that video out before you watch this, just so you have a firm grasp as to what's going on in Theros Beyond Death. But we're here to talk about two-headed giants. So this is a format where you have you, your teammate, you both get to open up a pre-release kit of 6 packs and then share your packs to make the 2 best decks possible. I absolutely love this format. I think it's a great way to get new players into the game. It's just a great fun time. It's probably the most laid back pre-release event, at least where I usually go. It's just a lot of fun. So I'm here to help you at least have a better time, maybe even win some games. What a shocking concept. But have an idea of what cards are better and worse as a result of us having multiple opponents, and just talk about what strategies I think will make a well-rounded team. Let's get into it. Let's start in white with Dawn Evangel, as I think it's important to note that he triggers if any creature dies that you had an aura on, whether it be yours, your teammates, or an opponent's. Eidolon of Obstruction stalls out those planeswalkers your opponents pull and you and your teammate wish you had. Elspeth Conquers Death helps slow down both your opponents on its second chapter. And then Flicker of Fate is another card you really need to keep an eye out for, because you can blink anyone's creature or enchantment. So use it to protect your own stuff, or use it to get an enchantment off your opponent's creature or fizzle a crucial combat trick. Heliod Suncrown can give you or your teammate's creature's lifelink, but remember, you only get to put the 1/1 counter on it if it's a creature you control that gains life. Heliod's Intervention can of course blow up stuff controlled by both of your opponents. Leonin of the Lost Pride gets rid of the huge problem cards in either opponent's graveyard, so I rate this card a bit higher for two-headed giant. And Shadow the Sky can be a good play if you and your teammate are on a slower strategy, but most likely it just resets the game. It then goes to time and ends in a draw. Moving on to blue, Kiora Best the Sun God is still stupid good, but does only tap one opponent's board for basically 2 turns. Who cares? You're still playing this card if you open it. Protean Thaumaturgy may be one of the biggest sleeper rares in the set, since it can become a copy of your opponent's bombiest creature whenever an enchantment ETBs for you. So as they play bigger stuff, this can grow with it. Sea God Scorn gets a little better just because you probably will have more time to get to it and have more impactful creatures to bounce. Stinging Lionfish I think will be very good as well, since it offers you the flexibility of being able to tap the biggest thing on your opponent's side of the board or untap your team's best blocker. Whirlwind Denial is great in that it can hit multiple things on the stack. I don't know how often you may run into this scenario, but it does read opponents, so if they try and layer spells and abilities, this card can provide a huge blowout opportunity. And finally, if you love alternate win cons, Thassa's Oracle gives us a side quest that is sure to delight. Now, it only cares about your devotion to blue, so going mono blue I wouldn't recommend, although you can pair it with some cards that help increase your devotion. But if someone pulls this off, I'd at least give them a nice golf clap. Now moving on to black, which always has some spicy cards for two-headed giant. Grey Merchant of Asphodel, aka Gary, does damage to each opponent and you gain life equal to the damage done, so this card can be good just to pad your life total or as a finisher. Lampet of Death's Vigil works well in the black-red sacrifice deck and pings each opponent for 1. And Minion's Return is fantastic. Flash it in just as that bomb creature is about to die, whether it be yours, your partner's, or either of your opponents, and then you get to bring it back into play under your control. Just remember, if it would be exiled, this wouldn't work, only if the creature were to die and go to the graveyard. Pharika's Spawn, when it escapes, requires each opponent to sacrifice a non-Gorgon creature, so this card goes from good to better. Timerit can exile cards from each opponent's graveyards, which can also be quite valuable. And Underworld Dreams is a reprint in the set that can definitely win you the game. Pinging your opponents for 2 damage every turn really adds up. Next are the red cards, and there's only a couple to make note of. The Akroan War requires all opponents' creatures to attack, which can be very good as it allows you to maybe get some great blocks lined up, potentially force your opponent to use combat tricks at inopportune times, and even wipe their side of the board on the 3rd chapter. If you played Flummox Cyclops, assume it will never block since you now have 2 opponents that can potentially be attacking. And then Tectonic Giant is awesome since when he attacks or is targeted by an opponent's spell, he returns the favor in the form of 6 damage. Then green has a few things going on as well. Arasta of the Endless Web can get out of hand quickly with her army of spiders if not removed immediately. The Binding of the Titans gets cards in everyone's graveyard, which I assume is going to be to your benefit. You can of course enchant your opponents' and teammates' creatures or their land, but the most tempting and all-in strategy is playing Nessian Boar, trying to make it as big and powerful as possible and keeping it around with those combat tricks and counter spells. Best case scenario is you wipe your opponent's board each time you attack. Just keep in mind this will be drawing your opponents a lot of cards for each creature they block with, which means the worst case scenario is if they can kill it at instant speed before damage is done, they may very well run away with the game as a result. If you can make it indestructible though, that could be a pretty potent combo. If you or your teammates have a lot of enchantment creatures, Inspire Awe can be a game-swinging spell, but it's not something I would auto-include in every green deck unless you and your teammate can benefit from it more often than not. And finally, for green, cards like Plummet are a must, as is Return to Nature, since we have so many enchantment creatures and cards with the new escape mechanic as great targets for it. I'd say this is one of the best sets to play Return to Nature, and in fact, I'd be happy to play multiple copies of the spell in every green deck. Now onto the gold cards. Siona will get you creatures if your teammate or opponents put an aura on any of your creatures. Ashiok's minions do mill both opponents. Klothys, God of Destiny, damages both opponents, as does Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. Kunaros, Hound of Ethereos, shuts down everyone doing anything with their graveyard, and Mystic Chimera pings both opponents as well when you cast that first spell on their turn. Note that Shadow Spear helps you remove all those indestructible things like the god creatures on your opponent's side of the board. And lastly, we can use Polochronos to eat any creature on the board, including our teammates, if they forget who the boss is. And now that we've gone through the cards, typically the next question I get is, okay, what are the best color pairings or colors to look out for? Depends on what cards you open up and really what bombs you open up. But with this set and us having the devotion factor, there is a case that you could potentially go a monocolored route. In sealed, I don't think it's very likely, just having 6 packs if you're just doing a one-person pre-release, but with it being 2-headed giant, us having 12 packs, there is some potential there. And I think mono black is probably the top tier option there. If we can get, say, 2, crazy enough to even think maybe 3 Garys, him by himself is your win con. So if you go in that direction, that's probably your most likely option. I'd probably put white in second place because you can make a lot of tokens, have some heroic creatures, pump them up. Sweet, you have a great board, lots of damage. But more likely than not, you want each person playing at least 2 colors because you need to have access to those bombs you opened up. And more often than not, of course, they're going to be spread out somewhat evenly across all the colors. So you usually have to play more than, say, 3 colors across both your decks to get access to the top tier cards in your card pool. With that said, 2-headed giant is often just a bit slower and grindier of a format, so I often like to have other colors because each color kind of does its own thing and provides a certain amount of value that another color can't. So if I had to then say, all right, here's my ideal color combos for this set, I think blue-green just looks super strong. And typically my partner doesn't like to play blue, so I'm happy to bear that burden. I think blue-green would be a really good deck to have, and then my teammate probably playing white-black because there's just so much removal and recursion there that you can deal with anything as well as have your own evasion and answers to enchantments type of cards. With this set, I would 100% say each deck needs to have some evasion in it because I think this set is going to be slow. So find the best color pairs that allow you to play your bombs and have that evasion to break through those board stalls, especially in this set. And make sure each deck has evasive creatures, enchantment removal, and creature removal because you're gonna need it. I think the best thing to pre-plan before 2-headed giant is just like, I don't like playing blue, so do you mind playing whatever blue cards we get that are worth playing? Great, got it. Or hey, if we can pull off a monocolor deck, I'd like to try that. Okay, then at least we know when we're opening our cards, let's organize them in that way so that you have clear vision to what's going on with that card pool, the other person can see what's going on, and then just remember to have fun. Like, these are super casual, super fun pre-release events. I just love 2-headed giant. And there's always a good chance of, communication's key in this format, especially while you're playing, of just saying like, hey, I can do this, but also the mind games. Mind games are huge in 2-headed giant. And you're just saying, oh, hey, he's probably gonna attack with this, and then I can do this thing. When you have no other option, you might as well just bluff like you have something, make him hold back, not like, oh, we could swing all out and win here, but we'll hold back because it looks like they have some removal. Exactly. And then you can top deck your win, never tell them that happened. Just say, yeah, we had it planned the whole time, this just kind of worked out. Mind games. I love the mind games. That's my point. Okay. It's just a thought. That's just a rambling thought from Mountain Man Magic. Look at this hoodie though. Oh yeah, we got merch. If you want hoodies, you can check that out in the description. Hoodies are sweet and comfortable. This one's so, I'm just going to cut that rambling off right there. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions about 2-headed giant. I'd be happy to help you there. Thank you to Card Kingdom for sponsoring the channel. They have the best customer service in the biz. So if you're going to buy online, buy from them. Thank you to my patrons. You guys are just the best. I can't say it enough. And if you want to join, you can check out the link in the description of this video. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video, and best of luck at your pre-release. Take it easy. Peace.